Hey guys, it's Kevin, another movie for guys. Now this movie reviewing, finally, I have gotten round to seeing this movie. I have been waiting so long to finally watch this. This seems like one of those movies that everyone has seen, except for me, really. Like, this is a movie that I have wanted to see for so long now, and finally have gotten around to see it, and without further ado, that movie is none other than a movie that everyone's been saying is probably going to win a ton of awards, and one of the best movies of the year, and that movie, of course, is Moonlight. Yes, finally, I have gotten around to seeing Moonlight. I wanted to see it for a really long time. I expected this to come to my theater last week. I don't know why it finally took it took so long to come to my theater, but finally came to my theater, and I made sure that I finally saw it, and thank God that I did, because Moonlight is really just as good as everyone says it is. Like, Moonlight is an absolute masterpiece. I really did love this movie. It is one of the most heart-wrenching and powerful films of this year for many different reasons. But let's just get to the plot of Moonlight, which this is a movie that I really feel you guys should go into not knowing a ton about. If you've seen my October movie preview, I've already talked about, what the movie's about and things like that. If you have seen it, then honestly, I think you're good in terms of plots, but let's just get to the plot very briefly. In a nutshell, essentially this movie is about this guy, Jerome. We follow him through three very significant decades in his life. One as a child, one as a teenager, and then one when he is a full-grown adult. And it's just basically him discovering who he is and basically coming to terms with his sexuality in a world that fully doesn't understand him. And that's basically all I will say, because I don't want to say anything else about this movie. But let's just get right into it, because I really want to just jump right in and talk about everything that I really did love, because there's so much great stuff when it comes to this movie. So let's get to the acting in this movie, because, wow, I mean, I know I see a lot of movies, but when it comes to the acting here, all across the board, everyone gives incredible performances. There's not a single performance in this movie that I think is half-assed or someone who isn't giving it their all. Everyone really did an incredible job here. I think everyone really deserved Oscar consideration. It's one of those movies where it's really hard to pick a perfect performance, but let's get right into it. Let's talk about our main star here, Trevante Rhodes as Jerome, who was absolutely incredible in this movie. But it's not just him. I think all three of the actors, Trevante Rhodes, Ashton Sanders, and Alex Hibbert, should all be commended for playing this character of Jerome, someone who is very lost in society to the point where he doesn't fit, and other people don't really understand him in that way. And I found that aspect of his character to be very, very relatable. Not really what's going on in his home life or him grappling with his sexuality, but the stuff with him being lost in life, not really having any sort of direction or really knowing what he wants to do. It's just very interesting to see, and seeing him throughout the movie fully discover who he is just really eye-opening to watch. I think all three of these actors did such a great job, starting from, Alex Hibbert when he's young, him starting to just see signs that he's not like everyone else, and then when he turns into who he is as an adult, it's not all what you expect, and I think the casting for this was just so impeccable, because all three of these actors, you really could see them grow up to be Trevante Rhodes. Like, they look like a young Trevante Rhodes. They did that really incredible here. I think all three of the actors were really, really great. I loved everything about them. Definitely should be up for Oscar consideration. I'd be very surprised if they didn't, and by far, I think Jerome is one of the most fleshed out characters of this year. Just everything about him I absolutely loved. I thought that they were all just incredible, and really just one of the best performances I've seen all year. I will be very surprised, and you will definitely be hearing about them come Oscar time. I'll be very surprised if you're not. And then the other really essential character in this movie is Kevin, who is played by André Holland, and André Holland absolutely killed it. I think he was definitely the best of the three, but I found Kevin in general to be a very fascinating character. This is someone who, like Jerome, is very lost and isn't really accepted, but at the same time, he's kind of subjected to conform with the rest of the world. So he's someone who is confused, and at sometimes will act like Jerome, and then sometimes will just try to be like everyone else. And it really is heartbreaking to watch, because so much of the movie is built up with their relationship, with Kevin being one of the only people that Jerome really does understand Jerome, and some of their scenes together are just so well done. Their relationship in general is just so interesting to watch. I really did care about them. The chemistry between Trevante, Rhodes, and André Holland especially, I thought was just so well handled, especially towards the end of the movie. There are some scenes that I just thought were so well done, and the direction they take these two characters in is very, very surprising. It's not all you expect, and I really think that they both did incredible performances here. I loved everything about both their characters, and again, some of the most fleshed out characters I've seen all year without a doubt. I really did love Kevin's character overall. And then Janelle Monáe plays Teresa, who is Chiron's mother figure because his other mother is kind of unfit. We'll get into that, but I thought she definitely was really great here. She definitely gives a really good performance. She's one of the first people that really tries to get Chiron to open up and really discover who he is, and I definitely really did like that. But Naomie Harris is Paula. I mean, talk about someone who gives a very powerful performance, because everything about Paula, I felt so bad for. I mean, this is someone who has clearly grown up on the wrong side of the tracks. She is the definition of a drug addict, and there's some scenes that are just heartbreaking to watch of her begging her son for money, or her taking all her anger out on her son, but you can see that she genuinely really does love him. And there is definitely a scene towards the end of the movie where if she is not up for Oscar consideration, I will be outraged. I mean, this scene towards the end of the movie, I don't want to spoil, but it had me in tears. I thought that it was just so well handled, and she was just incredible in the movie. I really did love Naomie Harris. As much as you hate her character to the point, you really do understand where she's coming from, and they really did a great job with that. And that's when you know I have a great movie, when even the characters you're not supposed to like are somewhat relatable. They did a really good job with that. And then the only other character to really talk about is Mahershala Ali, who, of course, I have given all the praise to in Luke Cage, and here, once again, he's playing a completely different character of Juan, someone who takes Chiron under his wing and is kind of like a father figure to him, because Chiron, in reality, doesn't really have a father figure, and their relationship is just so interesting. I loved everything about it. I thought that the way that Juan gets Chiron to really think about himself just through this one conversation, I really did love, and I was a little bit disappointed how much he's not in the movie, because he's not really in the movie nearly as much as you think. I'm not going to spoil why, but there's a direction they take his character that I was very surprised about, but for the most part, I thought it worked really well. What he was given, he was incredible, and I think definitely should get Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars, because really everyone here, I think, really deserves some sort of Oscar consideration. I think everyone really did an incredible job, and I'll be very surprised if you're definitely going to see most of these names Oscar time, because definitely they all deserve performances, and in my opinion, is the best cast I've seen this year so far, without a doubt. But now let's get into the stuff that I really want to talk about, which is the directing and the screenplay, because, wow, I mean, the directing here by Barry Jenkins is definitely something that should be commended on. I think he did an incredible job directing this movie. Now, this movie's gotten a lot of comparisons to Boyhood, in that it's kind of the same type of movie, and I really feel it's a very unfair comparison. Yeah, they may be movies that are, trying to showcase a boy's life, from childhood to adulthood, but they are completely different movies with two completely different directors and very different styles, and really I don't think should be compared at all. Definitely a very not fair comparison, but I think his directing this movie was just so spot on. You could tell he knew what he wanted to do, and it's very realistic. There's nothing about this movie that doesn't feel real. Like, this feels like this is what a boy goes through. Someone who would grow up in this harsh environment and really discover who they are. I just thought it was so well directed, and when I say this movie is really focused on Chiron, he did a really good job at focusing on his point of view. Us seeing who Chiron is, just little things about him, like the fact that he's so reclusive, or the fact that he's very weak, because Chiron in general is kind of a very scrawny, weak person. He's not really someone that fights a lot. He's not really someone who, he says he's tough, but in reality is not really all that tough. And he's also someone who likes to stay away from a lot of the violence and a lot of the hard things in his life. And just seeing a lot of that, I just thought Barry Jenkins directed so well. And you really do feel for all these characters. Like, when shit's going down with these characters, I definitely did feel for them. I definitely found myself connecting with pretty much every character in this movie, and he really did an incredible job with that direction. And then he also did the screenplay here, which the screenplay is the best screenplay I have heard all year. I loved everything about the screenplay. The way the screenplay was done in terms of dialogue, I just thought the dialogue here was just so well done. I've heard some people say this is like visual poetry, and I definitely would agree with that. A lot of this movie feels very much like a poem that you're reading, and definitely you're feeling empathy for, and they did that really well here. But I also really loved about this movie is the way the story's told, because it is a story that's told in three subsequent different decades, and you definitely do feel that here. Like, you feel like a lot has happened. When you get to him as a teenager, things are very different than how he was when he was a kid, and they did that really, really well. I think it was really well utilized, and that was something that I absolutely loved when it came to the story. I just thought that was really well done here. I really did get into the story, and it was really something that very much affected me, honestly. I did not expect this movie to affect me as much as it did. And again, I'm not someone that's grappling with sexuality. I know exactly who I am. I'm not someone who lives in a harsh environment. In fact, my environment is pretty chill, really, honestly. It's not really that harsh of an environment, but I am definitely someone who has struggled with who I really am and had people who unfairly judge me because of it. And I think that's something that this movie does show really well, is that no matter what happens to you, you know, life's really tough, and sometimes you just gotta, I think the movie really is a lot of message about conformity and identity, and a lot of it really is about trying to be who you are in a world where people are not okay with that. It's a very relevant message nowadays, especially when it comes to gays and lesbians. Just, there are so many of that community in the world now, and the amount of people who are out and who are, saying that, oh, this is who I am, it's kind of scary, really. And this movie really does show how scary that can really be. I'm not saying it's scary that they're out there, obviously. It's scary, though, that you never really know if everyone's going to be as accepting of that. And that's something that I think this movie just portrayed really, really well, is showing how unaccepting that, and how just dark, and really, I think just how gritty and real this world really is. I mean, this is not a movie where things are Hollywoodized at all. This is very real. This is very gritty, and at times it's very hard to watch. But I think they handled that really, really well here. And I really did not predict anything that was going to happen here. Like, the way the movie ended was completely different than the way I thought it was going to, but I will definitely say the ending of this movie is the best ending I've seen all year. I think it is as complete as you could have done it, and I don't really think the movie could have ended in a better way. The cinematography here, though, I thought was just stunning, honestly. The cinematography here was so stunning, and it was in his point of view the entire time. Like, I really did notice, except for a couple scenes, mostly every scene is in Chiron's view. Like, there are some scenes where they would just focus the camera on him pouring water into a bathtub, or him just making food for himself, and it was just a really good way of getting us into this character's head, showing how he goes about life, and that really is showing how focused and how much this movie understands its characters, which I think they did so well. I really did love that with cinematography, and by far some of the best I've seen all year. I mean, there are some shots here that were absolutely stunning, and I'll be very surprised if it doesn't get nominated for best cinematography. You'll definitely see that. The score in this movie is incredible. The score is so epic and very much feels like classical music. I was surprised to hear this was, in fact, original music. I thought that these were compositions that are like old classical music, but no, it is actually original music, and it really is beautiful. It's played throughout the entire movie, especially that score that you heard in the trailer. It is incredible to listen to, and I think it really does add to the weight and the drama going on here, because there's so much of that going on. I thought the score really was incredible, and then the way the movie's edited, I really thought was perfect. I was gonna say that if I did have to have one flaw with this movie, like if someone put a gun to my head and said, you have to have one flaw with this movie, I would say that I do think that there were a couple things that might have been omitted in the final cut, but I will definitely admit that everything that was shown on the cutting room floor when it comes to editing, I think was perfectly cut. There's not a single scene here that I would take out. There's not a single scene where I didn't feel something, and every scene is really, this is one of those movies where you really can imagine, you can remember every scene. Like, that doesn't happen a lot to me, but this is definitely a movie where I remember pretty much every scene. I definitely did get something out of every scene, and really, as the movie went on, every scene got better and better, and I really do think that as the action went on too, like when he went from, little Chiron to Chiron, and then to how he ends up in the future, I just thought every scene got better and better and better, and that rarely happens in movies, definitely, and I think that was something that was so well done here, and that's something that I really did love when it comes to the editing. Overall, guys, Moonlight is an absolute masterpiece. I really did love everything about this movie. It really is something incredible. It's a movie that I really do think everyone needs to see, especially if you've ever grappled with your sexuality or you haven't really figured out who you are in life. It really is a very eye-opening film to see. It's not an easy film to watch, definitely. There definitely are some scenes that are very hard to watch. You definitely should know what you're getting into. But I think in terms of best movies of the year, this is a movie that is imperative to watch, definitely. It's a very important film that I would highly recommend, and definitely, I am most definitely going to give Moonlight a 5 out of 5 or an A+. This is probably the best movie I've seen all year. It was very relatable, it had an incredible story, and just with very well realized characters, and one of the best, I think, stories that I've seen in a very long time. Also a fantastic film for A24 to star with, definitely something I recommend you all check out. If you haven't seen, definitely check it out. It's worth seeing in theaters. Definitely this is a movie that I think you need to see in theaters. There are some limited releases that I've said, oh, you don't need to see in theaters, but this is definitely one that you need to see in theaters. It is incredible to watch, and I don't want to say much more, but it is definitely a sight to behold. It's an incredible film in every way and deserves pretty much all the praise it's gotten. I really was worried that I was going to say this movie wasn't as good as it is, but it truly does deserve all the praise it's gotten and nothing more than, you know, the praise that it has. But over, guys, my review Moonlight. Let me know what you guys saw this movie overall. Loved your thoughts on it. Sorry it took me so long to review this movie. You guys are probably sick of hearing about it by now, but I'm so happy that I finally got a chance to watch it. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.